stuff, so we're definitely cool with that.
That is.
I had an idea for a guest of honor. Well, it was a friend of ours who had the idea. But Lucy has read the book, so she'll talk about it.
Oh, okay, about The Summer Prince. So, The Summer Prince is a young adult novel written by Elia Dawn Johnson. She is, the book itself, first of all, I mean, the reason that this is brought up is because young adult authors often kind of get overlooked in our genre when we're talking about these cons, and they play a major role, but her society in this particular book, the people that live there get a whole lot of enhancements, basically. They can pay to get like bulbs, like lights put under their skin, to create art on their skin, and they have various enhancements that can be put into their brains to do a variety of things, including talking to the city itself that they live in, and communicating with it there. And the book is actually a very artistic book. It's really well written. But that author was suggested to me, and I picked up the book and read it immediately, and it was really good.
The Summer Prince?
The Summer Prince, yeah. It's nominated for a Norton, it's nominated for the DECCON Award. You know, she's going to be an up-and-coming author, I think, so.
That's a great idea.
And the book deals with different kinds of alternative cultures as well, right?
Yeah, it's a very segregated society, you know, one of those kind of dystopian, not dystopian like Hunger Games, not quite to that like extreme, but it is definitely groups, you know, post-nuclear fallout, groups form their own little societies that are not really in contact with each other very much anymore, so, yeah. But they get these crazy enhancements and mods and stuff, and their cities are run by big robotic spiders that crawl up and down the walls and break
The Matrix.
and stuff like that. It is like the Matrix, but it's neat. It was a really good book. So.
And there's some references to some, you know, different kinds of sexualities and stuff, which is interesting in an adult book.
The other possible one that we have talked about in the past, I don't know which type of go she would be, but Charlie Jane Anders from IO9, the science fiction writer for IO9, transgender woman who is like making a lot of, I mean, she's very well known in the entire nation, and I'm sure she gets a lot of that information, you know, first when she's reporting on that kind of stuff. So
That's a super
just
cool
a name,
suggestion.
just a name to put down there. I would love. I think we were fighting over whether she should go to Penguicon or Confusion, but she's really a lot into like costuming and stuff as well, and I think Penguicon would actually be a better fit for her. So.
You're so generous, Liz.
Well, I'm not gonna. You know,
And
she may come to Confusion.
I sent her an email, although I didn't necessarily get back, but I did send her an email about Penguicon for IO9, essentially, so she's at least heard of us.
Neat. Any other like guest of honor suggestions? I'm thinking like, think big. I mean, we got really super lucky this year with some of our guests of honor. We had some really big stretch goals. Like I was thinking, I wanted Trent Reznor. I'm like, that guy is a number one gigantic geek. He makes his own wine, and he's super cool. And of course, that was my pie in the sky. I'm like, there's no way Trent Reznor will ever come to Penguicon. But I put him on my list of people I wanted to explore. So, what do you guys think for like pie in the sky guest of
Well, if
honor?
we're gonna go high in the sky,
Yes.
Andrew WK. He is into the geek culture. He's into bronies. He's a motivational speaker, and he's a rock musician.
Andrew W.
K, yeah.
K. K-A-Y?
No, WK, like.
Oh,
Yeah.
Andrew W.K. Got it.
You know him from the song Party Hard, but he's a lot more than that.
Very thoughtful.
His philosophy is a lot more than just the party. He uses the party as a metaphor for living positively, basically. His Twitter, if you do Twitter, he does a lot of. He's very active on Twitter, so.
Cool.
You know, if we're gonna reach high.
You want to.
Henry Rollins.
I want Felicia Day.
Well, I want
That's
Felicia
gonna have to
there.
like. Well, we're happy.
Hey, what about
I
what
mean,
we,
Paul and Storm might be. I don't know.
Too soon.
How do you spell that?
it's with an H?
Well, Wheaton?
Hill Heaton?
Yeah.
I truth be told, I did invite him again this year, but in a very, very quiet way. I'm like, look, I'd like you to show up, make a really big joke in opening ceremonies, then have you disappear. I would seriously fly you out here just to walk out on stage and then walk back. And no response.
Hey, it never hurts to ask. That's how we ended up with Cory Doctorow here.
Yeah.
So that was just because we asked.
Spider Robinson.
Spider Robinson.
Because he couldn't make it the year that,
But didn't we have him the year after though?
he
We
wasn't
got-
able to attend because of Jeannie's death. But he did send over
That's
some
right.
readings and
Yeah.
things like that for us to play, but he wasn't actually physically able to be here, so.
Confusion had him what year?
It was previous to that, like a while ago, like years ago.
I was so excited that year and I
Yeah.
still would love to have him.
I'm a big fan of David Brin,
B-R-I-N-N?
B-R-I-N.
B-R-I-N.
He's a science fiction writer, among other things, also a PhD in astrophysics. He's a huge policy wonk.
He's a big optimistic sci-fi guy.
Yeah. Yeah, one of his big things is, science fiction goes off the rails when all we can talk about is a dystopian future, because science fiction should be about how the future is awesome.
What was his name again?
Brin, David Brin.
Perhaps not a very conventional choice, but it occurs to me that given the themes that are being discussed for next year, Eliezer Yudkowsky might not be a terrible stretch goal as well.
Eliezer, yeah.
I couldn't spell his name if I tried. He's the guy from the group formerly known as the Singularity Institute. He's also known for having written.
It's Moshe's son.
Also known for having written Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality, which
Yeah.
real in fanfic. So
He sees himself as a futurist. He really talks about the singularity a lot. But computers are smarter than people. I like Elliot a lot. Elliot.
E-L-I-E-Z-E-R Yudkowsky. Research fellow.
Y-U-D-H-O. You got it, I think.
I got him. That's a great suggestion, actually.
I would say Strauss for
Yeah, Strauss.
singularity stuff, but he was actually here for confusion very recently.
He was here for Penguicon just before that.
Yeah.
Well, never mind.
From a tech side, I know Linus Torvalds rarely leaves his house for these things, so that might really be impossible.
That would be
But-
a big, if you're looking for a Trent Reznor, then
Yeah,
that would be
that's-
him.
But I think a big name who would be gettable would be John Mad Dog Hall.
He actually came before.
He would be a
He was
show
7.0.
Yeah.
Did we invite him this year?
I don't know, did we hit all
I
of our?
don't, we don't have
He was here
everybody's,
last? No, 2 years.
we don't have everybody's contact information, so we didn't hit everybody,
Yeah.
every go emeritus.
Mary,
I know Mad Dog, not intimately, but
Right.
enough to send him an
I
email.
think we,
In
I
the
think
biblical
we did
sense.
invite him this year.
Mary, we should perhaps contact each of the, we should take a look through our previous goes and talk to the concierge maybe of the years for the goes that we don't have information, and keep a list with the board of email addresses or contact information for all of the go emeritus so that we can remind them every year.
We have the email addresses for probably about 70% of them. And right now they're shared with me and Nuri, I think, like with programming and
Right, but
content.
I mean,
It would
just
be
so that
great to store that with the board also.
future chairs,
Yeah, I mean, they're in the Google right now.
What about Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is that level of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's Trent Reznor level.
Yeah,
We're gonna shoot.
definitely.
I know that we brought him out to Dearborn years ago, but we brought Steve Wozniak out for one of our Mac hacks around 2002, 2003. I have to pull my.
Steve has been interested in Penguicon in the past. I have some email correspondence with him from
Fantastic
a couple
speaker,
years ago.
very humorous.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Wanted to come, and he said, check with my wife, she keeps my schedule, and then she got back with me, and they were very kind, and they said he is in, the robotics competition during that time period and can't come. This was a couple years ago, so I was just saying, he is I think he's pretty big in futurism circles, so when we're talking about, where humanity is going, he might be a good.
Well, I'm just wondering, you're
as
just
well.
trying to determine what day or what weekend to have the con next year. If we wanted to really, see if we can get Steve to come, is to find out what his schedule is, to see, do we want to rearrange our whole lives around him coming?
I think that's a worthy goal.
I
think,
within the reason of the 2 dates.
when I had,
Just, you know what I mean? Like only offer them the 2 weekends. Don't be like, we could do it in January.
When I've been planning in the past, when I've been planning like cons or education days and things like that or whatever, I've always found it to be like a bad plan. If somebody can't come on the date that works best for everyone, but they're the biggest one and they're gonna be the coolest person there or whatever, save it till next year. Build that up. Build that up.
What about Tim O'Reilly?
I heard
He's
something,
expressed interest before.
and I've heard something about O'Reilly Press just today, that they had kind of given up on Penguicon because they thought we had a lack of real tech programming, and that the word has already gotten back to them
We're gonna fix that, aren't we?
that we have really worked on that. And that was one of our goals this year, that Janet executed extremely well.
Yeah.
And that the people at Canonical and Red Hat and O'Reilly Press have heard that this is legit. And I already mentioned to someone my interest in having Canonical sponsor us next year.
Awesome.
So,
And we may be able to get Red Hat. I'm working on that one.
I would love to see more things like room parties by, open source
Me too.
vendors of
Yeah.
whatever.
the Red Hat Red Pop or something like that.
Can you imagine this, okay? Right, let's say we have room parties on let's say 3, 4, and 5. Let's say 3 is all open source vendors of some kind, throwing parties.
That's an awesome idea, Scott.
Right? Some of them could
Highlight.
be that they bring their own people. Some of them, maybe we get somebody to run it and they send us a bunch of swag and sponsor the room, pay for it, and put somebody in the
That's
staff.
a great way to bring in sponsors that might not,
Want a booth.
might not want a booth, might not have something tangible that they want to set out, but could
Right.
want to get their name out and
Also great recruiting too.
Yeah.
Well, so there's not just throwing this idea out there. I understand some companies that do automotive somewhere around here, and trying to get them, to recruit or to have a presence here. I mean, that could be huge.
We tried that this year. We had the Emerging Industry Showcase where I wanted basically a job fair. And for one reason or another, we just couldn't pull it together and ended up canceling it at the last minute. So
Yeah.
Do it for next year.
Well, here's
I think
the
it's
thing.
worth it. We just need someone to run
To
it.
do that well, you need to have someone who is focused on that and has time and energy and commits to it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's gonna collapse.
The reason why, in my opinion, this convention turned out so well this year is that we did not wait a minute last year. We started early, we kept it strong, we kept people interested, and we said, what are you doing this month? What are your plans for next month? Let's do it, and the few things that didn't work out this time were things that ended up sometimes necessarily being left for the last minute, right?
or things that the person who was supposed to be responsible for that thing either wasn't able to continue their responsibilities or had something come up or something like that. So those are things that the few areas I was thinking this morning, like what didn't go well, and those areas that came to mind were things where legitimately the person who was supposed to be responsible for it wasn't. So, I mean, everything that was supposed to happen, everything that we worked on really did happen, and that's because we kept at it through the whole year.
Well,
So
so
if we
I-
want to do a tech fair, then we need to basically be working on that soon.
Now.
I wanna-
Okay, so
Yeah.
let me
And just
toss out
Keep in mind
this.
also, Nuri, you know, if we fill a floor with tech guests, that's gonna be another overflow hotel we need, because we're filling this hotel plus.
You know, if we grow
So-
another 20% or 30% next year, then we're gonna need a bus to shuttle people back and forth from the next
Yeah,
closest
no
overflow.
biggie.
And no bigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I mean, you know.
Very happy dances.
We've got the registration numbers, Amanda has got them, and she's not letting me know, so that means that
I know, she told me and I'm not telling you.
apparently they're really good.
You're gonna like
I'm gonna like
Did
it.
you blackmail it out of her with her banner? Were you like, I'll give you the banner, give me the numbers?
So circle back to this idea that people drop something that might be useful to us, buddy system. You know, for each of the heads of something, you need a secondary head, or, you know, something along those lines.
Good
That is a challenge that we have, that
I did that this year.
any of you that can help us get the word out about, currently it's at 2014.penguicon.org/contribute. There's a form asking people how, if they'd like to help out as staff or even, although this year as Concom we've got that set. But it's true, for me too, I would never be able to have gotten the things done that I did without, at the very least, Jessica Roll and James, helping out and things that I definitely didn't have time for, right? But the point is we need more people as staff who are willing to help throughout the year. So, if you know somebody who you think might be a good fit, who might be interested but is like, I've never done this before, and would work as a great second in a situation like that, please send them to the website, send them to a SMOS party. We are really good at schmoozing them.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, you are.
Are you guys familiar with SMOS?
Two more of those if I had a ride to get back and forth. That's basically my,
We're trying to move them around as best we can. I mean, we're not, probably gonna go out to Lansing necessarily, but we're trying to.
Do you guys know what SMOS
No, I
parties
don't
is, first
live
of
in
all?
Lansing,
No.
thankfully.
hey, we're in the metro areas.
We've got folks who know what SMOS is, hold on.
Oh.
So SMOS stands for Secret Masters of SMOS.
It's supposed to be Secret Masters of Fandom.
Well,
Well,
we
that's
changed
small.
it. If you go to our FAQ on the website, it tells you what it is, but it's a joke, because in the tech community, there's like GNU, news, not Unix.
It's
So-
recursive.
Right, so it's recursive and it's supposed to be funny because we're not really masters and it's not secret, and it's also recursive.
And basically, we get together, like, we'll host several of them in our house. We buy food, we buy beer, and we usually have a Concom meeting before, which is open to anybody, and then we party for a couple hours. We sit around and talk about ideas, have a good time, and it's our way of extending Penguicon throughout the year and keeping people organized and energized and having a good time, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, we've had parties go till 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and people just hanging around, drinking beer and having a good time, and talking tech, or talking life, or, just being friends.
Throwing
It's-
con ideas around.
Throwing con ideas.
We've talked with Jessica, our internal communications, about helping us try to do more regular events that aren't necessarily attached to the Concom meetings. Because some people feel like, oh, if I'm not contributing at the Concom meeting, I'm not welcome at the party. Just totally not true. It's totally open, but
Everybody's welcome.
there's I'm trying to remember, was it Back to the Future that's coming to?
Yeah, and Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
That's gonna be our next SMOS, and I don't know if you know this, but Amanda Long Adams has agreed to organize those.
No.
Yeah, when we were talking, we went out to lunch after the last Concom meeting. She agreed to organize so our goal for this year is 2 SMOS events a month. One SMOS event that happens with the Concom meeting at somebody's house when we meet. And those will be on Sunday afternoons, just like they were this year. But we're gonna try to do a second SMOS event every month that happens some other place. Maybe bowling, maybe seeing a nerdy movie, maybe whatever kind of event. So
Something
the first,
cheap
something
and-
cheap and fun that lots of people can be included in, and not on Sundays, so that people who can't come on Sundays for whatever reason can be included. And the first one is gonna be in June, and it's gonna be at the Redford Theater, and there's, I think it's gonna be the Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
Is it still weekends or?
Some of them will be weeknights and some of them will be weekends, just depending on what the events are, but Amanda Long Adams is gonna put those together for us.
So I have a thing with the Dearborn Library that, our club uses the library, and so we are obligated to provide to them some workshops or some events for, the public and all that. If there's some way I can, get that to work as a sponsor. So you're doing mostly, it sounds like, people's homes or some, event where you have drinking involved, right? Or something of that nature. And I don't know how you would do that type of thing in a library, but.
No, it's not, generally,
Socialization.
generally what we're doing is, the one event a month is dinner, and there's, drinks, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, just for people to hang around and socialize. And then the other event is ideally not going to be at someone's home, it's gonna be something a little more out in public, but not something expensive, because that we know that, something, we wanna keep it reasonable for people.
What you might be able to do with that is, depending on what's going on with Matt and Tux Tracks, he might be willing to use that kind of space to do a bit of a code sprint or something.
Oh, I'm sure he would be happy to have.
Oh,
us-
cool,
that
cool. Because I
space.
think if he's using a hotel, he's got to pay for it, but if the library we can get for free,
Yeah, and I know they've met at I3 before, so I know he is looking for
Okay, cool.
places where he can get people together.
Cool.
Would it be possible, because I'm not coming straight, so I'm not driving 6.5 hours for, it sounds great, but.
Well, so, webcast it or something.
Yeah, I was
Put it
gonna
on.
say, can you do a Google Hangout?
Yes, we've done it before, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
What we need to do is glue a webcam to the top corner of your house. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, if you can have infrared, that would be great for me. But, because sitting around with a laptop pointing out, you end up missing out a lot. So we'll just have to think of the logistics for that.
Yeah.
I
We've
think
done-
somebody can figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Is anybody in this room that is,
Well, here, that's the thing though, is, we sort of leave it to like, oh, who wants to do this or whatever. If we really want to do that, we need people like you who are really interested and keep up that pressure.
Yeah.
And say, I really want to hear about the Concom meeting, I can't make it there because I'm really far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's.
Well, so if
There's
somebody
no
had a,
reason-
say, a video camera that likes the video camera stuff and throw it out on YouTube afterwards or something.
Sure, or,
Well, with Concom, I think we're probably more comfortable streaming them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'd rather,
yeah.
because I can participate. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, it would be interesting to do, like, if for people who can't be there, if you were interested in running like a Google Hangout, even, if somebody who is attending who can attend the Concom meeting wants to kind of live chat the
Yeah.
Concom meeting, that could be really fun too, as opposed to in addition to, or as opposed to the streaming aspect, because there's
Like
a
a
lot,
Twitter feed or
yeah,
something?
or just like, we say really random crap for Concom meetings, and it could be really fun to capture some of that in that kind of environment and have people chiming in who maybe can't be there, even in the Detroit area, who can't make the trip. Like you were saying, sometimes you don't have transportation or whatever. That might be a fun way, if someone who attends the meeting is interested in doing that, people can join that hangout.
Sorry for all the dinging. We've had speaking of hangouts, we've had a Concom hangout in Google all weekend for like, hey, have Amanda call this person.
Oh, Liffy.
Oh.
Liffy, I invited you at the very beginning.
You are invited.
Yeah,
It says people miss hangout.
it says that your Google Hangouts is off.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I
If
can't
you-
get a hold of you.
If you're curious, Lithy, if you like set up Google Hangouts on your phone, if you agree to the invite, then you can actually look through all the crazy shit that we've been
Yeah,
saying.
the other thing that I wanted to,
I bet it would have been hysterical, I would have never freaking worked. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh wait, guess what's happening now?
Yeah, do that on Tuesday or maybe Thursday.
It was really useful for us talking to each other this weekend. It was a good idea.
I
And
will
it's
check
also a
that out.
historical
It
record.
made me leave my bedroom in the middle of the night less.
maybe when we don't want.
And that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
A private
a good
historical
thing.
record.
That's why I need to do a massive one for next year for the whole town.
That's so.
Oh,
That would
great
be
idea.
awesome.
Well, so I
No.
posted this idea a couple
Not
years ago.
Concom.
I actually set up a couple servers with a thing called Big Blue Button, and I had that in the Penguicon computer room running all weekend, and I couldn't get anybody to connect to it. There just wasn't enough notice out to people.
What was it?
It was basically a video conferencing solution. We had our own internal network with these servers sitting there idle, and nobody.
What were they?
There was a product called Big Blue Button. It was sort of like
Open source
video
conferencing.
video conferencing that was popular for, 2 years ago.
So people would use their own cameras?
So you could come on with your own device, with your own webcam, while you're sitting there watching this presentation, and broadcast it to people sitting in their rooms.
Powered by Rackspace.
What?
Yeah, so was our own internal, web conferencing tool, but we just didn't get enough notice out or
Wait,
something.
so-
But did we got it working?
Oh yeah, it was working.
Okay, I mean, if you got it working, then the logistics is already taken care of, so the publicity is the least of our concerns.
So I'm head of communications, and anytime we have something awesome like that, I'd be happy to make sure that it makes its way into the souvenir book, makes its way onto, we've been doing Facebook profiles of all sorts of things.
Okay, well, so, all right.
If you put in a lot of work, or somebody's putting in a lot of work to make something like that happen, we want to get that out there before people get to con. That was a
Right.
huge thing this year, is basically saying, all this fun stuff that's happening, we need people to know about it before they get here. If we've got to go, they should already know who that go is before they get
Okay,
here.
so some infrastructure concern then. We didn't have the guy who was doing the networking this year. So the Wi-Fi was not doing the Wi-Fi, So, that is a fundamental thing that needs to be going on here for this all to work.
Yeah, I think we've got some concern we're gonna talk about with the hotel. They had 100 meg pipe and not enough DHCP. I think they had 1024 reservations, and we had close to 1,400 people in the building, all with 3 devices apiece connected. I don't think
That's what we
they really.
told them there was gonna be.
Yeah.
I mean, they just.
Worked okay when you
don't
got here
understand
Thursday.
it till,
Yeah. That's one of the things when we break in a new hotel is, some things they, sometimes they listen and, I know, and sometimes they think they know from their experience, and that's legitimate. They have a lot of experience running events, and they hear us saying one thing and they think that they have experience that they're drawing from too. So both the con and the hotel learn from the experience of actually running the con, and then we're able to go forward into the next year with more information about what will actually work well for us in the space.
It's not great, but nobody has made a Waypoint Pinata, which they did at a previous Penguicon. So.
well, and I mean, it only took the hotel, for months they've been saying we won't budge on using the key cards in the elevators, but it only took 3 hours for them to be like, you know what, no, we're gonna
fix that for you. I know Kevin had something.
Well, I want to continue related technical infrastructure thing that I've been thinking about. A few weeks ago, there was Northeast Linux Fest. They recorded all of their talks within 72 hours. All of the recordings were available through their website.
Okay, well, so 2 years ago, I suggested we buy some webcams, cheap ones, and provide that out, and the holdup was, we couldn't get volunteer organization to, own up to some volunteers for that.
Cisco does this. In fact, all of Cisco's big conferences, like live, each room has a Cisco cam in it that's recorded. Cisco's in this building. My regional Cisco office is upstairs. We have people who come from Cisco. We have the guy who is the telepresence backbone engineer I met this weekend. We may be able to find something. And I think if Cisco would sponsor it, we put them in every room and just, I think that's a damn
And
good
there's
idea.
an accessibility concern there though, is that some people might not want themselves streamed, so would we be streaming the channel?
So you put something in the
Yeah.
pamphlet saying that, we're streaming everything and.
Well, that doesn't really necessarily
Yeah,
satisfy people who are.
Right, yeah.
I think as long
If
as
you
you,
can say, yeah.
as long as you are focusing the camera
On the speakers,
Yeah.
yeah.
You may get audience back of heads, but as long as you don't get,
Sure, yeah.
people's, as long as you're not putting one in the opposite
As
direction.
long as there's an opt-out for presenters who don't want to be
It's like
streamed.
Oh, definitely.
open source sex toys. They may not be interested in
Yeah, I
having
know, just from working with people doing some of the presentations, there's issues around people not wanting to use their real name because of concerns or personal concerns or whatever, so I think there should, it should be extremely clear that that's an opt-in, like, kind of
Yeah.
thing, like, yes, you want to be streamed, and, maybe some people wouldn't want to participate.
Okay, so I have some concern about that. I take my camera and I record everything that I'm going to, so now I have to know whether that particular group of people want that or not. I don't have a way of finding that out.
Well, you can ask
You
them.
do, you ask them.
Yeah.
Well, one way that would be easy to do that is just have designated rooms that don't want to be streamed. And then you just know this is the non-stream room. You
That's,
don't even have to.
that is
Well-
a great idea, but I can hear you crying.
Yeah, my stomach, when you said that, my stomach went, there's just so many constraints when making the schedule, it's just not feasible to put all the things in one room.
Yeah.
And to respond to what you said, the way to do that is to ask people if you can have their consent for filming.